What's up, my friend? Welcome back to another video. So today I wanted to do a beginner's guide to Sibelius. And in case you're unaware, Sibelius is one of the foremost notation softwares in the market today. There used to be Finale, which was also very popular, but was recently discontinued. And now there's also Dorico from Steinberg. So Dorico and Sibelius are sort of the top two in terms of the paid offerings, but you also have more streamlined options like Noteflight and MuseScore, which I believe are free. So there's all these different options on the market, but I wanted to share with you Sibelius because this is the platform that I chose to write my Christmas album charts with. So in case you haven't heard the album, there's a few big band charts on there, and I hired remote players to play on the album, and I use Sibelius to write out all the different charts there. So I'll do a separate video going over one of the charts to kind of break down my process in Sibelius and how I write there, but this video is more focused on the getting started aspects of Sibelius. And if you know me, I like to keep things simple, and so this will be sort of a very step-by-step approach to how to actually create music in Sibelius. So on the Avid website, you can read all about Sibelius and sort of what it offers, but it's a very, very powerful site that's been around for decades, I believe. And at any point, if you want to check out my complete composing process, I'd highly recommend checking out my free workshop called the Complete Composer's Framework. It literally walks through step by step of how I make music from start to finish, including composing, like writing down the ideas, producing it inside of the DAW, orchestrating an arrangement, mixing and mastering, and then finally putting it out there into the world. It's a very complete look at my full process, and it's free. So if you want to check it out, it's on demand down below in the description box. You can check it out there for free as a gift for watching this video today. And with that being said, let's kind of get into the nuts and bolts of Sibelius. So the version I'm using is Sibelius Ultimate, and I'm just going to click here on Sibelius on the app, put my headphones on here, and they're going to create a really nice little piece of music there. And so the menu that we open up with is basically a whole bunch of templates that they give us, right? So we can go with just a solo piano, we can choose just a treble staff if we want to do like a single vocal line, you can do the bass staff. They also give you more complex options: brass band, concert band, marching band. There's chamber ensembles, brass quartets, piano trios, choral arrangements, SATBs, jazz big band, which is the template I use for my charts, a typical lead sheet, jazz combo, Latin full orchestra, film orchestra, large orchestra, as you can see. So lots and lots of different options there, right? But let's just say we want to start with something basic. And I will just go with, let's say, the solo piano score. So I'm going to click that. And now it takes me to the setup page where I can sort of customize the details. So I'm going to leave this on letter size, and the house style is unchanged. I'm just going to leave that there. And then time signature we can choose from. And let's just stick with 4/4 time so we can see what that looks like. And then if you want to start with an upbeat, like a pickup, you can do that as well, right? But in this case, let's just leave that unchecked. This is also something you would want to set up as well. How fast do you want the tempo to be? So you can choose a tempo marking, choose from these Italian terms. Let's just say we want something more sort of middle of the road. So let's go with andante, which just means at a walking pace. And then the metronome speed, let's just say it's like 80, for example. So now this is important because when you set the BPM, it's going to adjust the click, right? Because when you're writing down parts and you want to hear the playback of those parts, you want Sibelius to play it at the appropriate tempo you're hearing in your head. So it might make sense to pull out a metronome you already have on your phone, and then find the tempo that you want for your piece of music and then put that into here in Sibelius. Then here under the information setup, then we can start putting in those details as well. Key signature setup, of course, you can choose your key signature. In this case, we'll just leave it as C major. Beautiful piano piece. Composer songwriter would be Chris Siu. We're not going to do lyrics, so I'm not going to put myself there. And then you can always do copyright as well if you really wanted to. Let's just put that in. Why not? Chris, right? And that's it. Very, very simple. So let's click create. And now we have our full document. So I'm just going to double click that to zoom in a little bit. All right, so now this is Sibelius Ultimate, by the way, and they sort of have the most updated features. And I think moving forward, Sibelius Ultimate probably is the way to go, just because they continuously update the software. And you have a choice of both the subscription option or a perpetual license. It really just depends on what you personally prefer payment-wise. So anyway, this keypad, as you can see here, you can drag and adjust anywhere you want, but I think it's really, really useful, especially when you're starting out, because you can visually see where these notes are and what the note values are that you want to apply. Um, and then here you can see we have the full staff. So if we zoom out a little bit, we can see the entire page, right? And usually when I'm writing, I tend to like to keep it either a bit more zoomed out to see the whole page, or if I'm writing an individual part, I might scroll a little bit more. All right. So with any notation software, you have multiple ways of inputting notes. The easiest way, honestly, is probably just to click notes or play them on your actual computer keyboard. So in this case, I'm using the Apple keyboard, right? So if I press C, if I press the C key, it's going to play me C. I can press C as many times as I want, and it defaults to quarter notes. It just plays out Cs, right? And I can create melodies by doing this. I can do C, D, E, G, C, F, E, D, right? And in terms of the octave, it basically chooses the note, I believe, closest to the previous note. So because I pressed F here, F is closer to this C than this F down here, which is a fifth below. So it continues to go higher and higher before I descend down. But if you do want to change the octave, let's say, then all you need to do is select that note and press Command and then the down arrow, or up arrow if you wanted to go up the octave. So Command plus down or up. I think in PC that would be Control, but yeah, for Mac it's Command. So there we go. That's pretty easy. Of course, you can take multiple notes like the entire bar and shift them up and down at once. Multiple bars, as much as you want, right? Or you can just do certain notes, just like that. So you can play or press those specific letters on your computer keyboard. That's one way to do it. The second way to do it is by simply clicking your desired note value. Let's say in this case, we want quarter notes, and we can use our mouse to play in the notes. F, G, A, F, G, C, A, F, right? So you could do it that way. And a lot of people have a very fluid workflow by doing this. And it makes a lot of sense for them because maybe they're not brought up as keyboard players. They prefer to click things in just like in the DAW. Totally makes sense. That's the second way. Personally, I don't do this as much because as a classical piano player, I do prefer to play in my parts whenever I can. So that brings us to method number 3, which is actually by hooking up your MIDI controller into your computer so that you can play on your keyboard and have the notes show up in Sibelius. And that's the way I prefer to do it. For example, I can play F, G, A, F, C, B, A, B. But of course, I can also play back notes, right? And that's the benefit of having the keyboard available right under your fingers. You don't have to go in and actually put in sharps and flats by yourself or in post, basically, to these notes that you want. The other benefit of playing on the keyboard is that you can play chords, so multiple notes at once, right? Whereas if you clicked in the notes with your mouse, then you have to play in or insert notes one at a time. And sort of the same thing with the computer keyboard, I believe. Let's actually test that out and see if that's the case. So if I press C and E at the same time. Yeah, so the notes show up separately, as you can see, as separate quarter notes. But using your MIDI controller, you can have multiple chords or multiple notes show up at once. And you would just want to make sure it's actually hooked up in the first place, right? So I believe it's here in Note Input. Input devices here at the top left. And then here you can see my Keylab 88 is checked. So that is my MIDI controller that I've plugged into my computer, and it registers as a MIDI controller with which I can play these notes. So that's the basic note input, 3 different methods. Now, let's say you're writing a passage and you start wanting different note values, right? So we have quarter notes, and then we also want to have some half notes, which would make sense because most melodies probably have different note values, right? So let's go back with single notes here. Let's say that's our short little melody there. Da 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 da. Well, maybe I can switch up the melody here a little bit. Maybe I want da 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 da, and I want the C held for the whole bar. So that means I would do a dotted quarter here, and I can click this F, select this F, and click this dot right over here. Actually, that would be a staccato mark, so it would actually be this one down here. Now you can see it turns into a dotted quarter note followed by an eighth note. So now it's da 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 dun dun da dun dun da. And this one I want to be a whole note, so I can click whole note there. Right, just by using the keypad. These note values are also mapped to your different or mapped to different key commands on the keyboard, the computer keyboard as well. I'm not exactly sure what they are because I don't actually use them that way, but I just use the keypad myself. So yeah, if I need different note values, I will select them using the keypad just by making sure the note is actually selected first. And that's how you do it. So yeah, different note values by doing that. And then let's say we're writing more and we want 4 bars per line. Because if you're giving your music to a performer, you want to make it as easily readable as possible, right? Because so you don't want them to be thinking all over the place. So let's keep our melody going here, and then we'll experiment. So this one I'm going to do another dotted quarter note there, and then let's make this a half note. So we have da 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 da. Then let's say now I want to do my second half of this phrase. Let's say I want to take this first 2 bars and copy that into the next 2 bars. So now we have do 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 do. Actually, let's just play it and hear it. Now I need 2 more bars to finish this 8-bar phrase, so I'll probably just do 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 do. So that would be like this. So we'll do C, and you can use your up and down arrows, by the way, on the selected note to shift by step. So C, E, D. Let's go to G and then back to C. I'll use my computer keyboard for that one, and then I will select that note and make sure I choose a whole note there. There we go. Now notice how we have 6 bars followed by 2 bars. That doesn't look very even, right? So the simplest way to fix this is by selecting the bar line after bar number 4, because this is where I want 2 lines of 4 measures each, right? So I select the end of bar 4 and I click return or enter on my computer keyboard. Now you can see I have a fresh new line for my second half of the phrase. And I'm probably going to want the same thing here. So after the 8th bar, select the bar line, click enter, and now we have this very clean looking 4-bar phrase. 2 sets of 4 bars, right? And there we go. Of course, you can always add phrase marks. So let's say we want this whole thing to be interpreted as one long phrase. We can click, shift, and then click the end of the region that you want to select, go up to notations, click slur, and now you have that slur there. So now we have a slur, basically entailing that this whole thing is meant to be played as one long phrase. And we could do the same with our second phrase as well, just like this. And what's really cool is you can shift sort of how high or low you want the phrase, but as long as it has that curve, the pianist will understand that that's what you're going for, right? Okay, now let's say we want the left hand to play a bit of an accompaniment, which would make sense. So firstly, I'm hearing sort of a 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and sort of a flowing 8th note sort of pattern. So I'm going to start by selecting this 8th note right there. But now you can see this region is selected as 8th notes, right? 8th note values. So let's play a little bit and let's just see how this sounds. There we go. And this F, I'm going to make a quarter note because I want it held to the end of the bar. And let's also take these first 2 bars, copy them down here. And then this right here, again, we'll select 8th notes. Let's see. Da, da, da. Yeah, we'll do that. And then we'll do multiple notes there. So we'll select that as quarter, quarter, and then we'll do a dominant 7th, and then we'll do a nice extended C major chord there to finish, and we'll make that a whole note as well. Okay. So now let's have a listen. We'll start back from the beginning. So we go up to the play tab, go to the beginning, click play. There we go. And let's just say I actually wanted it a little bit faster. So you can always go in and just change the tempo just by typing it in, and it will play back faster. Right? And then respectively, you might want to change the actual tempo marking as well. So this is more like allegretto at this point. But that's basically it. So like what I kind of wanted to go over the most was the different ways of input, like note input, and then how you can start applying some articulations. So speaking of which, let's maybe add a couple more here. Maybe we want the F. Da, 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 dun, da, 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 dun. We want to have a bit more stress on the F. So in this case, I'm taking off a tenuto. So here you can see there's a tenuto. We click that. Now you can see the tenuto is written there for that F. Let's say we want the first two bars to crescendo a little bit. So I'm going to copy or select those two bars. Again, go up to notations, click crescendo. Now we have this crescendo in the middle of the bar, right? And then same thing, select the next two bars. Maybe here the phrase is ending, so we taper back down, decrescendo. And now there we go. So you get the idea, right? If you want to add more and more stuff, it would make sense to put down the individual notes first. At least that's my personal approach, because I want to get the musical ideas laid down, and then I can add in any articulations and dynamic markings I want afterwards. Okay, at this point, let's just say we're finished with this piece and we're pretty happy with it. So we have all these extra bars that we don't need, right? So what you can do is just select from bar 9 all the way to the very end. Again, I'm clicking Shift, and then I select the very end. I go up to Home, I click Delete. Do I want to delete these bars from the score? Yes. And now I'm left with these two lines. And that's it. So maybe I think, okay, maybe I want to fill up the page a little bit more. So I decided to have 2 bars per line. So we could even do that. Go to this end of bar 2, enter. Go to the end of bar 2 here, enter. And now we have these 8 bars spread out across the entire page. Easy, okay? And that's the very basis of creating a piece in Sibelius. So the third and final step is exporting. Let's say we're finished with it. We're ready to publish this thing and get it out there. So what do? We come up here to File on the left, and we're going to go down to Export. Now you have multiple options. You can export just the audio, so the MP3. Sibelius sounds aren't very good, obviously. Like you heard from the piano, it sounds very synthy and MIDI-like. So, but it's really good just to get a grasp of what your music actually sounds like, the melodies, the harmonies, all that stuff. So it is a good idea to export your MP3 every now and then. So you could do that very easily. You can export a video of the music actually playing as well, which is obviously very cool. You can export PDFs, which I would highly recommend if you're trying to give your parts to players. You can export just the score. If you have individual parts, like let's say you have a piano and a flute part and a saxophone part, you can output the individual files and parts, which is a great thing to do as well. So all these different options, you select, you click export. It takes a second, and now it's all exported. And now you can send the PDF to anyone you want, and they'll see exactly what you see right here. That's the idea. That's the ground rules, or like the very basics of how Sibelius works. You can see how simple this really is, and you can accomplish this in pretty much any notation software you want. The ones that I've used in the past, like No Flight especially, I've always found user friendly. But it's when you get to like the bigger pieces with larger ensemble sizes and you need a little bit more functionality, that's where the notation softwares that are paid come in handy a lot more. For my example, Sibelius and for my big band charts. I just really like the workflow of Sibelius. I kind of got used to it already, and I've been I can imagine myself using it for years and years to come. So I hope that all makes sense. Let me know if you have any questions. Again, this is just a beginner's guide, so it's definitely not exhaustive at all. We didn't go through all the different functions that it offers. This is just the tip of the iceberg. But if you are interested in it, Sibelius is available now anywhere you want to check it out on Avid. Again, I think they have both a perpetual license and a subscription option if you want that instead. So definitely check it out if you're looking for a robust notation software that can really get you really anywhere you need to go with your scores. But again, with that being said, if you want to check out my complete composing workflow and how I actually work in the DAW specifically, like Logic, and how I compose music, take it from the initial idea and flesh it out into the full orchestration and then the mix and the master and the final release, I shared that entire workflow with you in my on-demand workshop called the Complete Composers Framework, again, which you can find down below in the description as a thank you for watching this video today. Thanks again for watching. I'll catch you in the next one, and I'll see you very soon. Take care.